Anyone who's familiar with Wuthering Waves knows that the Cyberpunk collab had been revealed for many months before its release and had been gathering hype for just as long. After playing through the content, I suppose it's safe to say that the Wuthering Waves x Cyberpunk Edgerunners collab is a complete success. Ever since it was announced, expectations for this collab were very high, especially those coming from Punishing Grey Raven, which had Black Rock Shooter, Nier Automata, and Devil May Cry, all of which were pretty successful as well. So I'm glad to say that the Cyberpunk collab is one of the better ones that Kuro has done. In this video, I'll go through everything I thought about it. I should also make it clear that I have played 2077 and the Phantom Liberty expansion, but I have not got around to watching the show. However, I have watched video essays discussing it, so I know a little bit. Without further ado, let's begin with the story. I'll split the main story into two parts. The second half starts when Lucy and the rover reach the Night City Sonorosphere, and the first half is everything before that. The story introduces Lucy and David right away with a cool cutscene and a simple handshake. This scene is a rather awkward time for a title card, so I was surprised as to why it was placed here. Rebecca is introduced a little bit after this, and while Lucy and David's first appearance in this story were carried by the pre-rendered cutscene, Rebecca's is great because of her performance. She steals every scene like how Linnea did in 3.0 and 3.2. The writers also took time to include plenty of interactions with the Laharoi characters. Luke makes a short appearance, and Mornier helped out quite a lot. But the best interactions to me are between Linnea, Sigrika, and Rebecca. They were given plenty of time to bond, and every scene is fun or interesting in some way, and whenever the story wasn't being progressed, they would fill the space with terms to introduce things like Night City, corpos, BDs, and cyberpsychosis to players who may not be familiar with the cyberpunk setting. Other slang terms like choom, iron, etc. need no introduction, and I think the writers struck a good balance between the two. My favorite scene is the one where the girls spray tons of graffiti onto the academy wall as if rules don't exist. I also like how Linnea and Rebecca instantly bond over their love for guns, and her expression when Rebecca reveals her mercenary life is a nice inclusion. As for Lucy and Rebecca, I'm quite satisfied with their interactions as well. I've nothing much else to say other than they bounce off each other really well in most of their scenes. Throughout the quest, the player is able to play as both Lucy and Rebecca. Lucy's moveset is similar to that of many other characters in this game, while Rebecca functions a bit like Lumi and Galbraina as she can switch weapons at will and her dodges also function as attacks. Aside from their cool animations and movesets, I like how their supers transition them into a different state. Lucy gets a quick hack menu with plenty of options, while Rebecca just fires her HMG and slaughters everything in front of her. The second part of the story focuses almost entirely on Lucy and takes place in a Sonorosphere reconstructed using her memories of Night City. Much like 2.6 Part 1 or 2.7, the story branches out almost entirely from the main conflict, but I think this story ties its halves better because things that were revealed in the second half were obviously hinted at in the first. The slower pacing is less of an issue here because the first half had a rather slow pace as well, at least when compared to, let's say, the hunt in 2.6 Part 1. As stated earlier, this part focuses on Lucy and the most impactful scenes in the story are from here. In the penthouse overlooking Night City, which also features in 2077, Lucy reminisces about David, and I believe the very slow pace is intentional. The same goes for the very next scene, where she reveals some more information about the cyberpunk universe and spoils a bit more of the show. Speaking of which, I'm not exactly sure why this collab story included so many spoilers, but if it's necessary for players to understand the plot effectively, then so be it. As the second half of the plot essentially turns into a therapy session for Lucy, she had to come to terms with her friend's deaths at some point. The moment of truth happens in a train, which I initially thought was supposed to act as an end-card train. When the track Never Looking Back played though, I realized that this was in fact a mirror to Songbird's moment of truth in the game. Since it's been a long time since I've played it, I highly doubted myself when I identified it as a track from Phantom Liberty. As far as I'm aware, 3 more songs are used in this story. Contra La Luna is used when Lucy confronts Adam Smasher on the street.
恐怖からは逃れられん。無駄な抵抗はやめろ。そうすれば楽にしてやる。
Rebel Pass plays during the final boss fight on the moon.
状況を飲み込めてないみたいね。青ね。あんたは私の管理下よ。
And I Really Wanna Stay at Your House plays at several points after the fight. The cutscenes, as always, are very well made, and I'm glad that David wasn't just a cameo who appeared for like half a minute. Overall, this story is very good. The story essentially being a therapy session for Lucy makes it a cut above the standard character enters world, solves a problem and leaves world format. Some have called it episode 11 because it gave some closure regarding Lucy, and I'm inclined to agree. Aside from a good main story, the developers put in a lot more stuff to make this collab special. At certain points, the classic 2077 fast-forward transition plays when switching scenes, with the same sound effect and GUI from the game. Early in the story, the game also teaches the player to use Quickhacks, first in exploration by interacting with cameras and control panels, and then in combat. The sound effect and GUI are the exact same, and I constantly had to remind myself that tab isn't the key used to enter the menu, as it was in 2077. The player is also able to use Quickhacks in set pieces, most notably the one on the highway. Quickhacks are also used in Lucy's moveset as they are a core part of her kit. In both instances, players can choose between many options, but unlike in 2077, Lucy's RAM is maxed out from the beginning, which gives players a great deal of flexibility. When exploring the area, Quickhacks can be used on props like vending machines to obtain currency, which can be handed over to this talking vending machine, who is not to be confused for his counterpart in 2077. The collab also features another component from 2077, the hacking minigame. It's introduced in the story as well, but it's mostly used for exploration. Some machines require the player to hack it through this minigame instead. Unlike in 2077, the player has to complete every row for it to count as a win because the developers didn't tie individual rows to their own rewards. Also, 3.4 had an event that just featured this minigame, which I enjoyed quite a bit. Each level got more difficult, and I completed one of the toughest ones accidentally because I failed to notice a small sequence. At the end was a nice reward in the form of 2 special messages. I left the event thinking that there weren't enough levels, but then again I pulled Lucy. Using my wallet for the second time in this game, the first being Yinlin in 1.2, I got Lucy at 67 pulls. I'm not kidding. Whenever Lucy is in one of her idle animations, the player can enter this minigame at any time, which is something I didn't think the developers would ever include. It's a nice touch for those who enjoyed it, I guess. By now, it should be obvious that this collab has a lot of references. As mentioned earlier, the story features Songbird's train scene, but it also adds the orbital air rocket from Phantom Liberty. In Night City, players can speak to a few NPCs, some of which reference 2077's main character V, the mysterious Mr. Blue Eyes, and the band Samurai, which is also referenced in an achievement. The environments included in this collab are as faithful as the things that I've mentioned earlier. Despite a number of inaccuracies, namely the copy-pasting of assets and presence of things like Honami City's vending machines, the environments are extremely authentic, similar to Battlefield 1's portrayal of the Great War. The Cherry Blossom Market is very much like what I remember from the game and has plenty of small details. The buildings of well-known companies like Arasaka, Kangtao, and Trauma Team, as well as ads that include All Foods, My Boy Delamain, and the hero Yorinobu, work together to categorize the corporate hellhole of Night City almost as well as 2077 does. I think Kuro knows exactly how beautiful and horrible the skyline is because they let players return to Lucy's penthouse after the story and take in the view as often as they please. Even Adam Smasher's boss arena from the Nightmare Challenge has a great skybox. Now that I've essentially glazed much of the collab, let's move on to what I find kind of annoying. The collab introduced two 5-star playable characters, Rebecca and Lucy. While it is nice to see the former be a simple login reward, the latter is a regular 160 pull guarantee 80 pull coin toss that we've all gotten used to from this game. I've bitched about 50/50s in the past, so I'm not gonna do it again, but I do wish to highlight the free pulls that players can get at certain milestones. This is a good inclusion of course, but I don't think the same can be said for the unique resources that only apply to Lucy, Rebecca and their weapons. Obviously, not being able to use regular resources to pull for special characters is a frustrating issue, and those like me who tend to convert all airstrikes all the time had to get these special resources a different way. For me, I had to open my wallet to get Lucy. I decided against obtaining their weapons though. For Echoes, I was expecting to have to farm Adam Smasher and Arasaka goons to obtain a 3-set or 5-set, so I was surprised when I obtained the Mark 31 HMG and saw that it was the only Echo required to complete the set. This leaves room for 4 Echoes of other sets, which makes older Echoes relevant again due to their 2-piece bonuses. Without any Tacet Field or Nightmare Nest to farm, this Echo set is the friendliest to obtain in the entire game. Ah yes, it wouldn't be a new area without a few weird things, right? The good news is that there aren't many of them, at least in my experience anyway. When exploring as Linnae, I found out that not only were the vehicles destructible with interactable debris, but for some reason Linnae's hitboxes interacted with them in a very strange way. At several points in Night City, players can easily look outside the playable space. It's very obvious that out-of-bounds areas are given very little effort. For me, this is fine because the main focus is the story and characters anyway. Overall, the Cyberpunk Edgerunners collab was a pretty huge success, and I'm very satisfied with what we got. While Lucy and the 5-star weapons use the same gacha system, and the disappointingly small playable space has a few bugs and oddities, the story, environment, references, and playable characters more than make up for it. As usual for Kuro games, the collabs in their games are very well made, and I'm glad to count this one among them. If you wish to hear my thoughts on the other stuff in 3.4 as well as everything from 3.0 to 3.3, do check out the corresponding video. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.